Oh boy, it is Taco Tuesday. So let's talk about it with Staying Super with SimplySuperDave. Coming at you from the great state of Louisiana here in these crazy United States on this crazy planet spinning out of control in this crazy universe that we call life. Oh my gosh, folks, how y'all been doing this week? I hope you had a great weekend, Easter weekend. Always an interesting weekend every year. Noticeably that it falls on a different time every year. It's never the same weekend of the year that it was the previous year. That's because it has to come after the last harvest moon, the first Sunday after the last harvest moon. Usually it's the first Sunday in April, most of the times. But as we've seen over the years, that has not been the case. But either way, I think the last two episodes, we've been kind of just trying to talk about just staying positive, being a good person, really focusing on yourselves. In this crazy world with so much stuff going on in it, it's very easy to get lost and confused with all the news that's going on. So sometimes you got to remember, you do have to remember this, that despite what is going on in the world, what's on the news, what they're shoveling out on the daily basis on the morning shows and things like that, you still just have your world to deal with, all right? Things that are happening on the other side of the planet are going to continue happening. And when they're over, other things are going to start up and they're going to start happening. Either way, you still have to carry on out your day. You still have to go to that job you don't want to go do and make that money to pay for things that you feel like you need. Some things you do need, but we often tend to work really hard for a lot of things we really don't need. Oh, man, I was just watching an interview a while ago with the great David Bowie, the late great David Bowie. David Bowie, wow. What a fascinating person. If you can ever get a chance to catch an interview, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour, it doesn't matter. But if you ever see an interview with David Bowie, listen to it. The man was extraordinarily just intelligent. Not only that, but he was one of the most creative, successful musicians of all time. Music stretching from the 60s and the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, the man was a legend, a true legend. Iconic in the world of Daves, okay? Because David Bowie is one of a kind. I love how he embraced who he was. A lot of us need to take that page right out of the book and use it for ourselves. He knew that he was different from the very beginning, but he embraced it. And because he did embrace it and not feel like it made him, well, he did know it made him different, but he didn't feel like he was different from everybody else. You know what I mean? In other words, he felt like he had the same rights and desires that anybody else would have. So I wonder sometimes, if we tend to hold ourselves back because we tend to think that we're different. Like, I'm not like these people, so I can't do those kind of things. I'm not like this, so I can't do that either. You got to get those thoughts out of your head, folks. You got to embrace the craziness and who you are, the uniqueness that you are, because those are the very things that made David Bowie different from everybody else, different from other musicians. Watching him hang out next to Iggy Pop, who is vastly on the other end of the spectrum from David Bowie. But that's what was great about David Bowie. He also accepted people for who they were. He understood that he was in this circus world of people, and it wasn't just in the music world. It was all around. The music just lets you take that uniqueness and blow it up a little bit more. You know what I mean? So I want you to think to yourself, what is it so different about yourself that you feel like makes you not like anyone else, or you feel like holds you back? Because I guarantee you that might be the very thing that actually propels you forward. It's all about how you're looking at it. Is that how you really feel about your differences from other people, or is that how other people feel about your differences from other people? Think about that one really hard for me, folks, because I tell you, a lot of the things that we feel insecure about, the things that we feel like makes us not as great as other people, are things that other people feel about you, not how you feel about yourself. And we let those thoughts just ferment and just constantly bowl over to the point where we can't deal with it, where that's all we're thinking is other people's thoughts and not our own. You got to really, really want to embrace who you truly are to finally feel free in this world. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I'm sure David Bowie, despite how proud he was of himself and embracing who he was and standing up, had a lot of backlash back in the day. And still probably does, even though he's not here anymore, I'm pretty sure. We all do. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. Doesn't mean what you're doing is wrong. It just means those people don't approve of it and they don't like it. Now, that brings up a very interesting leadway into what's going on in today's society. You have so many people out there that are angry. And let's go ahead and address the Bud Light can issue. Okay, I'm not a big beer drinker. And when I was an alcoholic, I preferred liquor. So I don't really care about beer one way or the other. But there is a lot of beer fans out there. And the same people that are throwing a fit over the Bud Light can, they're the same people that said that they would never get hurt over things like that. I don't get hurt over stupid little things like da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, you do. If anything, this proves to us that we're all kind of the same. Even though you have liberals getting mad over Mrs. Butterworth pancake syrup, you have conservatives getting mad because Bud Light puts a transsexual on their Bud Light can with some rainbows on it. It's really about the same. Now, here's the thing, though, and this is probably not a lot of people are going to agree with me on this. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. Is there beer still in the can? Drink the fucking beer. I could care less what's on the outside of the can as long as I'm getting the beer that I'm getting, right? Same thing goes for my pancake syrup. All right? I could care less what the bottle looks like, what's the name on the bottle, as long as the fucking syrup is good and it's in the bottle, okay? That's all I care about. People getting worked up about the covers of the books and not so much about what it is. For instance, Mrs. Butterworth was one of the most successful early Black American women she was adored. She was adored by people. She was huge. And, she used to make appearances. White people would gather like she was, what I'm saying? She was trend-setting back way before civil rights movements even started. So, I don't understand why people want to get rid of that. I understand. I hear what they're saying to me, but that's just simply not true. It shows the time of slavery and how black people were treated. Yeah, and I like to remember that so we don't ever do it again, But I also like to remember the fact that she was one of those historical people that really, was a trailblazer, and taking her image. Uncle Ben, for example, there's another one. It just reminds me of slavery. Well, so what? Remember it. You're not supposed to forget it. Ever. You fucking people out there that want to forget about the bad things that happened in history are the very people that are going to allow more bad things repeat themselves again in history because you're forgetting about it. You can never forget about it. And besides, when I looked at Uncle Ben's rice or Mrs. Butterworth, I didn't think about slavery. I didn't think about, that's right, they cooked that shit for me. No, that ain't what I think. No, I just think that's the best rice and that's the best syrup. the best, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's like it don't make no sense. If Bud Light is the king of beers, it's not going to change because the can's different. It don't make no sense. None of it does. All this cancel culture shit, it's ridiculous. You're not embracing the differences of who we are, okay? You're wanting to forget the differences. But then you want to embrace the difference. It's so confusing out there. It really is. And that's why I do this podcast, to stay super. Because you can forget all that bullshit and just deal with what's going on in your day. You see what I'm saying? See how I got all worked up over that whole conversation, going back and forth, going this way? But let's face it, in the true real world, that is not an issue that ever even fucking affects my everyday life. Because I'm not having arguments in real life with people over the beer can. I'm not having real life arguments with people about Mrs. Butterworth's, syrup or Uncle Ben's rice. No, I'm not having those real life arguments. I'm having them on the internet with people because I roll through, I read a comment, I'm like, well, I feel differently about that. Now, either you can keep scrolling or you can go ahead and have a conversation with this person. Have a little debate. Debates are always great. Debates only further your education in life, okay? Because you learn things that you don't know about. And that's the only way we become smarter and more intelligent as people on this planet. So, in the real world, no, these issues are not even vastly, remotely important. They're not. But because of the virtual world, we tend to think that that's the topic that everybody's talking about. It's not. It's not. It's just something for us to have a conversation at the water cooler or the coffee table. You know what I mean? Things to talk about, just to have things to talk about. Real life issues, which we're not going to get into the serious shit. And I'm talking about, possible World War III, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, all the stupid shit that's going on right now. That is vastly important to us, but like I said a long time ago, and many podcasts in between, if you want to change our political spectrum, if you want to regain this country's control, if you want to put the narrative back on track, you're going to have to step in that voting booth and you're going to have to skip over the Republicans and the Democrats and pick a third party. I don't care if you vote for 5 other parties at the next election, as long as they're not Democrats and Republicans. You can pick someone from the Green Party, someone from the Libertarian Party. It doesn't matter. Just do not pick Republican and Democrats. Okay? If you think that Republicans and Democrats are the salvation, one of the other or 2 parties, because I guarantee you, you're probably going to be on one or the other side. Now, what you don't realize is because you are one on the other side, that's where they want you to be. They want you to conflict with each other constantly over everything, whether it's the Mrs. Butterworth bottle or who's the president of the United States. Who's this congressman and what's he doing? They want you to fight over it. They want you to stay separate. They don't want you to come together with a party that actually has the interest of everybody in mind. Come on, let's face it, folks. It's ridiculous to think that you have to stand on one side. You think Democrats don't agree with some Republicans about things, and you don't think Republicans agree with Democrats on things? Don't we want life to move forward in a progressive, liberal way where we can be more free and open about who we are? But it seems like that the liberals have gone so far this way, they have turned into the oppressors. That's right. They're like, okay, we want to open this all up, but we got to shut down all this hate. You can't shut down hate, all right? You just got to ignore that. And that's what staying super is all about, folks. It's ignoring all the bullshit and the hate in your life. Face it with a little love and laughter, and that will always conquer the hate and fear. So, folks, I hope you enjoy your Taco Tuesday, and hopefully you find someone that you can just talk about things with. Get that conversation started. Educate yourself by just talking to another human being. Talk to people with different opinions about things than you do. That's the only way you're going to become better. All right, folks, I got to get back to work. I hope y'all have a great Tuesday. And remember, love and laughter does conquer hate and fear. That's the only way you can be a conqueror and not another victim.